So in a previous video, we hit up a few abandoned places in Missouri. If you never saw that video, check it out right here where I'm pointing. So today I wanted to hit up a few places in particular that are supposedly, no possibly, no more likely haunted. Yes, I said haunted. With stories that could make the hairs on your arms stand up. Let's check it out. Hey guys, my name is Jesse Weiser and I'm a local realtor here in Springfield, Missouri, and today we are talking about the top haunted places in Missouri in no particular order. Let's get on it, there's plenty to dig into. Let's begin with one near my home, Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri. This place was once founded in 1913 by the Knights of Pythias and served as a home for their orphans and elderly, and was at one time a hospital. Eventually, it was used by the U.S. military for more than 50 years, including during World War II, where they rehabilitated wounded soldiers. Down below in the basement, or dungeon as some call it, many prisoners of war were kept there to be interrogated. Oof. As you can imagine, this was a pretty rough place at one point. There have been more than 100 deaths on the grounds, ranging from things like sickness or suicide. Some say they have seen a full apparition, been touched or scratched, heard a whistling melody in the foyer, a murmur of a crowd in an empty room, or the sound of footsteps and the sound of screams. That would be absolutely terrifying. This area is open to the public. They offer ghost tours, escape rooms, history tours, and murder mystery dinners that may allow you to catch a glimpse of the former inhabitants. Ooh! This next one, with probably the coolest name, is called Zombie Road, out by Wildwood, a town not too far from St. Louis. This is rated as one of the top haunted roads in the world. Its real name is Lawler Ford Road and is more than 2 mile stretch through forest land near the Merrimack River. The creepy history behind this place is that it's one of the largest Native American burial grounds in the entire country and was once used by the Army during the Civil War. Legends passed down tell the American Indians and Confederate rebels, packs of child ghosts, and the tortured souls of working men killed in industrial accidents. There's even the tale of the zombie killer. That is a man that comes out to disturb young couples looking for a place to be alone. Smooching is probably what they're doing. Also, they tell of a ghost who was killed when they were hit by a train. This was based on a real-life tragedy of a woman named Mrs. McCullough, who was the wife of a local judge who met her fate back in 1876. Others have seen shadowy figures and non-human entities. While it's open during the day, don't go here at night when it's closed because A, you most likely get a ticket because it's closed. And B, it's haunted. Can't you see my title? So we have touched on this place before, but today I wanted to break down a little bit more history on the 1836 Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City. Man, this place is creepy. This place is known as one of the bloodiest 47 acres in America and is one of the 3 maximum security prisons that can be toured today, one of those being Alcatraz. The infamous Alcatraz, people. This 185-year-old prison, good grief that's old, was the oldest continuously operating institution west of the Mississippi, and it once housed 5,200 inmates at its peak. One incredibly famous event was the riot of 1954. It was so bad, the police had to wait around the edge of the prison and wait for reinforcements to come in order to secure the prison, just to make sure no one escaped. The prisoners set fire to the factories that were worked by the prison laborers. They burned the shops and smashed everything they could. It ended up with 4 men dying, 50 injured, and 4 policemen injured, and cost more than $5 million. This place also had 40 executions happen within its walls and housed some of the worst criminals on death row. They included the deaths of Claude McGee, George Bell, and Bonnie B. Heady. Long before the prison closed, many prisoners and guards reported unusual activity. There were many apparitional sightings, unexplained sounds, and horrifying stories. One of the most sites with the most activity is the A Hall, which was built to house Civil War criminals. In its basement which is a medieval-style dungeon that was nicknamed the Hole. It held the prisoners on death row, other violent and disruptive prisoners, and those suffering from mental problems. They only had a small slit in the door to see through. Man, this was a brutal place. Here, people get the feeling of having been touched, overwhelming smells of body odor, a man on the catwalk, movements in the darkness, and something breathing down their necks. Through all the facilities, people have heard cell doors slamming, ghostly footsteps, loud banging, shadowy figures, objects being mysteriously moved around, and fast-moving entities. They also report having felt dread, a sense of sorrow, and feeling of being watched. There are tours to see this place if you're up for it. There's also the Union Station in Kansas City. This railway station is cool because it feels like something from Harry Potter. I don't know if I can do it. What do you say, chaps? Was that even British? It opened in 1914 and had more than 200 passenger trains go through the station on a daily basis, and was most popular during the World War II era. In 1913, one of the most infamous dates marked Kansas City history when a convicted mobster, Frank Nash, who was being escorted by FBI agents and police officers, was shot down and killed outside during the shootout. For a long while, people believed the marks outside of the station were caused by the bullets, but later disproved. Many speculate that other mobsters had a part to play in the crime. However, the only man ever charged was Adam Richetti, who died in Missouri's gas chamber. Heads up, it was at the penitentiary. Wow, isn't it crazy how all these kind of match up? Most of the premonitions seen at the station were all from the World War II era. Suggs Mailer is the most well-known spirit who worked at the station and transferred mail from the trail to the post office. After he retired, he disappeared and was never heard from again. They have seen him in the basement. At night, they say there are spirits that wait for the train as they did in real life. Employees have seen a woman in a black dress walking down the stairs after hours and traveling with suitcases that wander the halls. There are exhibits and tours you can visit that tell all these tales and other Kansas City tales, so be sure to check them out. You can also spend the night at Morse Mill Hotel in Hillsboro. This place was built originally in 1816, back when this area was still owned by the Spanish, y'all. That's how old it is. It predates being part of America. It was built originally as a one-bedroom house by John Morse, a man that suspected was a warlock, or someone who practices like witchcraft. It grew to be a massive 4-story, 5,300 square foot house with 33 bedrooms. Throughout the years, the hotel has been a hospital and resting ground for Confederate prisoners of war, a brothel, a speakeasy, an American United States post office, and a halfway house. And it may have been a stop at one point for the Underground Railroad, with one of the stones in the front of the building carved out by freed slaves. This place had incredibly famous people come through and sign the guest register. An actress named Clara Brown, movie star Charlie Chaplin, gangster Al Capone, pilot Charles Lindbergh, and outlaw Jesse James and his gang. Even the first female serial killer named Bertha Gifford worked there, who eventually poisoned 25 people with chocolates, including her husband, whom they believe still remains there. People have reported scratches on their neck, mist, strange images caught on film, the sound of footsteps, voices, cold breezes, the sound of a piano, voices and whispers, objects moving on their own, and apparitions through the whole years. There is even a well-known spirit in the dungeon of previous slave that they call Eddie. He has a name! I can only imagine some worker in the morning coming and being like, "What's up, Eddie?" Like it's no big deal. I would be like, "Ah!" This bed and breakfast is open to the public, and wow, this is a weird one. That's why I never go to bed and breakfast. They're all haunted. Lastly, and another favorite of ours we brought back was the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. What I really thought was interesting and just as tragic was the Lemp family story. It's one of the most talked and written about haunted homes in Missouri. What was once a prosperous brewery to the Lemp family became lost during the Prohibition. It all began after the death of William Lemp's favorite son, Frederick. Unable to cope, William Lemp excused himself at the table and shot himself in his home. This followed many other families' deaths, including the son William Jr. in the same fashion, and his daughter in a neighboring home. Years later, Charles shot his dog and then killed himself as well. As you can tell, these were incredibly tragic events to a family suffering, many people not understanding why. It sounds like something out of a storybook, but it's completely real. Many have reported having feelings of being watched, feelings of being followed, objects moving, lights turning off and on, kicking and pounding on the basement door, appliances behaving strangely, doors that lock and unlock on their own, cold spots, people being touched by unseen hands, sounds of barking, apparitions, overwhelming feelings of sadness and of being unwelcomed. Quite a hefty amount of things here. It has now become a restaurant, fine dinner theater, and bed and breakfast. Who in the world would visit this bed and breakfast? Guys, there are a ton of haunted places in Missouri. Seriously, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these chilling places. We chose this list based on 3 things: how much history was attached to them, how well known they were, and the ones with an interesting story. There is still plenty more to talk about. I would be willing to touch up on more haunted places if you're interested. Please let me know in the comments below if you are. You all stay safe. Don't venture to these places alone, people. If you're looking for more content about Missouri, be sure to click this playlist right here. This isn't goodbye because I'll see you in the next video. That is, if you aren't scared. Love you guys.